You want to start with agents? Well, that's what we're going to teach you how to do. And since we're a Microsoft shop, of course, we're going to use Microsoft tools. Specifically, this is a rundown on how to build something and get things set up and be able to understand and conceptualize what AI Foundry by Microsoft is all about. I'm Jeff Bernard with Solve Systems. Follow along to the other videos in this playlist, and we hope you learn something. If you need any help with setting any of these things up for your organization, feel free to reach out to us at the contact form in the link below. Let's dig into it. Go to azure.com and then we're going to get logged in. And Microsoft is really pushing AI Foundry, and it is improving leaps and bounds. I feel like almost weekly it gets better. Maybe a few times a week they push an update, so it's definitely gaining steam. It is probably not as far along as things like N8N or platform like that, but it extends into Microsoft's products. So from my standpoint, I'm willing to wait for some of this, to get up and going, to be able to build stuff on it. So this is how we set it up. So we're going to just give a resource group a name, and we'll say AI Foundry. And one thing you need to be aware of is that Microsoft will try to find wherever the resources are located. And what I mean by that is, they're not running these AI workloads at every data center. So when you set up AI Foundry, it's sometimes going to cause it to set up another resource group. But I like to set things up, and we'll see where it winds up. So let's create. Say AI Foundry, and this is just the general setup to get the GUI up and running so that we can start interfacing with it. So let's say AI Foundry, and we'll say Video Foundry. Just give it a name. And then we'll leave it in the East zone. But I have some pre-knowledge, which you can look in the documentation, and it'll kind of give you an understanding of where models are hosted. So that could be like East 2 or West 2. Again, they're not across every data center that they have. And so we're just going to choose East 2 because I know that there's some models there that we, might want to check out. So we'll give it a name. Give it a simple name. There's a lot of, features built in, but we're going to just leave it all networks. We're not going to go over all of those sensitive things right now. And then we're going to review and submit. And if everything checks out okay, looks like we're good to go, we'll hit create. So we'll go back to the dashboard and we'll refresh a few times. It looks like it's still deploying. So as it's organizing everything, it's going to launch the resources into the resource group, and then it'll give us a project and then give us the Foundry GUI. So we can look into the project, and it's sort of the same road to the same place, roughly. But if you click into the project, then you'll actually be in your actual project, which you have to be in to set things up. So we'll click into there. And now you have a nice starting point to start understanding Foundry. You have API keys here, and then you have your endpoints to be able to interact with services for AI Foundry on this landing spot, which is overview. So now that we have everything set up, let's poke around a little bit. We can see there's a model catalog, which is pretty interesting because this allows you to manage all of your models in one place, at least everything that Microsoft has available. So you got all of your OpenAI stuff, some DeepSeek stuff, some Grok stuff, and Mistral, some Microsoft proprietary models, Cohere. And they're adding more all the time, which is pretty neat because you have all of this in one place rather than sort of strewn out across services like Claude and OpenAI. You're just managing it in one place. It doesn't have Claude, but it has Codex Mini, which they just sort of introduced. I feel like recently, at least I've just seen it recently, which gives it that more code specific fine tuning that you'd be after if you were building something like a code generator. So let's go into playgrounds. You got all kind of different playgrounds here. You got video playground, chat playground, images, audio, speech, language background playground, translator playground, assistance playground. So you can think about these playgrounds as when you deploy a model, these playgrounds allow you to start interacting with the model that you've deployed before you're going to integrate this with anything else, right? So you you really need to start with deploying a model, but then you're going to work in the playground to be able to sort of fine tune and interact with your models that you've deployed to test everything before you make a big commitment and introduce a bunch of overhead by sort of integrating this into anything. Agents, you have this is actually really cool. You're able to deploy a model and then you're able to set up an agent. And then agent can call tools like MCP servers. What else? Knowledge bases like SharePoint and different databases, logic apps, function apps, all kind of different Microsoft infrastructure to really curate a agent to be able to call all kind of different tools. Super neat. You got templates. So this will get you started with some basic functionality, and it's pretty interesting. They've added a few more. It looks like recently. Modernize your code with agents, build conversational agent, unlock insights from conversational data. So this is really starting to provide enterprise infrastructure to be able to build all of these types of AI experiences. Fine tuning. This would allow you to add your special sauce to your model to be able to, add in the sorts of maybe industry specific ways of calling data and having your model respond in the context of that data. Content understanding. This is relatively new. I haven't really dug into this a whole lot, but I'm sure we will and probably do a video on that later. You got tracing, which is very helpful. So this is now built in. It was not initially built in, but this allows you to see, from the image here that you can, when your endpoint is interacted with, it records that interaction basically. So all of the things that it did to then have the output is recorded here. So you can evaluate all of this to be able to make changes and see any errors, how the model's responding, etc. You got monitoring, so you can observe all of the consumption, which is incredibly important around how much people are consuming within your app, and you can program off of that for things like token counters and all the things like levables back in and all these different platforms where you're having to account for the costs of the tokens that are being generated and processed. You have evaluations that give you the ability to check all of your parameters for your model to see a gauge and gauge the effectiveness and efficiency and check your safety and risk against all those things. You have guardrails so that you can make sure that you're not feeding back any crazy model responses. And they've built in some best practices for security so that you don't have to really lift a finger when it comes to thinking about all of the other things that if you just had a model API from XYZ company that you would have to think about with that. This is actually a new thing, risks and alerts. You're able to understand if there's anybody trying to, do prompt injections and stuff like this. It's pretty interesting. You have governance here, so you can set up your own sort of access and evaluations here to be able to govern the interactions with your models. This is one thing I really like that they've integrated is a assistant vector store. In the past, you had to build an index, and you can still do that in Azure AI Search. But now you have 10,000 files that you could dump into here and it automatically vectorizes them to be able to use, which is amazing because it reduces the friction that you would typically have with, having to build all of that stuff yourself. Is the data files that are part of that assistant vector store. And then you have models and endpoints. So when you deploy your models, they'll end up here. And then you can actually click into them and see the details, connection strings, etc., for your models. And then you have all of these other things that are sort of on top of it. And you have the functionality sort of getting built out in a way in AI Foundry where you have like your main services and then you have Azure OpenAI services. So it's just like sort of all the same thing, but there's just some different delineations between Azure OpenAI or OpenAI on Azure services and then the inbuilt Foundry services. And then you have the ability to deploy web apps. So once you build your experience through here, you can deploy it to a web app and do a bunch of customization there. So it gets you interactions with basically that's the front end, this is the back end, and you build all of your AI app experiences with this sort of managing all the back end of it. So that's a very high level understanding of Azure AI Foundry. We're going to start digging into each one of these sort of things as we move along in this video series. So check out other videos, and we look forward to sort of enlightening you on all the cool things that you can do with this. Have a good one.